without proper planning, you really are doing your family a disservice if you haven't thought that through and you don't have some sort of plan on the after. Because what you don't want is a fire sale, right? You don't want a fire sale and you don't want a dumpster fire. Hello, everyone. Welcome out to another episode of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast, where we take a look at what is changing in the pest and lawn industries, and we take you to the front lines, to those that are driving those changes. I'm Donnie Shelton, owner of Triangle Home Services, which has Triangle Pest as well as Triangle Lawn. And with me is the industry's most famous accountant, should I say, Mr. Dan Gordon. Dan, would you like to say good morning, talk about our sponsors, talk about our guest, our topic? Also, make sure you mention that awesome conference that we got coming up here in Raleigh in December. And then after that, we'll jump right into our topic.
Yes.
Okay.
PCO bookkeepers, M&A specialists. We focus on accounting for pest and lawn services, as well as exit planning, brokerage services, and whatnot. And let's see, our guest today is blank and our topic is blank. So I'm sure it's later down in the document where I can pull it up. But let me get to our sponsors.
Oh, boy.
Coalmarch, terrific marketing company. They work with pest and lawn companies, and they drive measurable, smarter growth for your business. So go over to coalmarch.com/podcast. And for more than 40 years, PestSure has been protecting pest control companies with specialized insurance. Nobody understands the insurance in our industry better. Learn more from pestsure.com. And Voice for Pest, only AI powered phone solution designed specifically for pest and lawn professionals. Learn more at voiceforpest.com/podcast. And Forshaw, leading family owned owned and operated distributor serving pest management professionals since 1961. Learn more about them at forshaw.com. PestPack by WorkWave. Running a pest control business means juggling a lot, from schedules and routes to billing and customer communication. PestPack brings it all together in one platform. Visit them at pestpack.com/PMP Industry Insiders. And they're not a sponsor, but this is a service for the industry. It's a new group called the PCO Vendor Collective. 5 of the industry's best vendors come together to offer exclusive discounts and education for the industry. One of those is PCO Bookkeepers. Another is Coalmarch, Applause, ARM, and Voice for Pest. Learn more at PCOVendorCollective.com. And if you're interested in joining one of our peer groups, please visit us, pmpindustryinsider.com/peer groups. And I'll let Donnie handle the conference that we're very,
well, I don't know. I mean, I think the
it.
podcast is over now. I mean, like, my gosh, we got it takes so long. Yep. So here's what I'll say, and I'll try to keep it quick. We're on track for our Insiders Conference. It's coming to Raleigh here this year in December 15th through the 17th. We have our program put together. We are finalizing our speakers. Most speakers are confirmed. It's going to be a fantastic conference with great food. It's going to be some great topics as well as great speakers. And certainly, if you're looking to grow your business, this is going to be the conference that you're going to want to be at. We're not going to be talking about best ways of service. We're not going to be talking about futuristic stuff. It's going to be really down in the weeds of how do you grow your business and how do you get better as a company. And so if you've not checked it out, go over to pmpindustryinsider.com/conference. You can get registered there. I don't know when the date runs out, but right now we got some early bird pricing up. And of course, if you're a member of one of our peer groups, you get additional pricing discounts on top of that. And with that, we're going to be talking.
I'll come for the food. I didn't realize the food was going to, that was what you led in with. But.
What? Listen, it's important. We got to eat well.
It is, absolutely.
You got to eat well. Got to eat well.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right. So the guests for today are 2 of our favorites, Donnie and I. And the topic, though, this one is really very interesting. And even if you're a small operator, you should listen, because it's not for just small operator or for larger operators, it's the estate gift and succession planning.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about some of the tax aspects, but there's also a whole asset protection aspect of it as well. So I am going to lead off with the sentence that I wrote via AI. And most pest control owners think that estate planning is a rich person problem. It's not. It's you built a business worth more than you think problem. How's that?
Yeah, listen, I'm sure if you're listening to this, I mean, for me personally, I did this years ago, and I don't know that it's a one and done. I think it's something that you have to actively
No, you have
manage.
to actually
Yeah.
look at it annually or
But let me
whenever
tell you
there's
what
a life
motivated it.
event. Yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you what motivated it was I had a friend who passed away, and I'm sure it's not this way in your family, Dan, but in my family, and maybe even some of our listeners, there's always one person that we call crazy, right? There's a crazy person. And in this case, what happened was when this person passed away, crazy got the assets. And I say crazy because he was married to crazy. And,
Who's crazy in your family?
and everyone. I think I'm
Oh
probably
yeah.
number one. Yeah.
Okay.
But
All
my
right.
point here is it made
No,
me
you're
think
right.
about that a lot. Is like, hey, if for whatever reason, I'm flying along one day and it's my day, and when I say it's my day to depart from this life, and something happened, and me and my wife are together, and then when my kids are married to crazy, how do I make sure that what I built stays where I want it to be, and how do I make sure that I've put in some stop gaps so that I can prevent I can keep people honest. Maybe that's a better way of saying it, and making sure that I want it handled the way that I want it handled. And so, that was what motivated me to do that. And I think it's something that we all should think of because, to your point, or should I say to AI's point, right? Your business is worth a lot more than you really think. And,
Yeah.
if it, and without proper planning, you really are doing your family a disservice if you haven't thought that through and you don't have some sort of plan on the after. Because what you don't want is a fire sale, right? You don't want a fire sale and you don't want a dumpster fire. I joke about that a
So,
lot, but
yeah.
it's the truth of the matter is that if you don't have a good plan and you've not done any estate planning, you absolutely are doing a disservice to your family. So with that, I'll let you take it.
So you talk about, okay, what if your kid marries somebody and they get divorced? What if your day happens
Mm-hmm.
and because your lovely wife is young and
Mm-hmm.
she's, intelligent and she attracts somebody who's maybe not as good as you, but, you know, and that person, they get married and
Mm-hmm.
that person maybe has kids from a prior marriage
Mm-hmm.
and they, maybe that's not the way that you saw it happening, right? So
Right.
these are things that you need
Mm-hmm.
to think about. And by the way, so divorces are definitely one thing, but accidents and they happen.
They do.
That's
Yeah.
another. So you know, um,
And I mean, listen, when there's money involved, no spouses ever take that into account. I can tell you their potential.
so are you saying that that your wife runs around with a piece of ledger paper and a banana peel and
I'm just saying, the reality of it is that if you've got someone who's a widow and a lot of money,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not hard.
Yeah.
It's not
By the way,
hard.
that's a lot easier than building a business, right? So,
Exactly.
so,
All right.
all right. So, why should a guy running a pest control company think about this stuff? Isn't it only for rich people? And that's what everybody thinks. But think about what you actually own. Your business could be worth, what are we seeing multiples? 10 to 14 times EBITDA, 3, 4 times revenue. So if you have a $500,000 business, it could be worth several million. If you have a several $1 million business, it could be worth, 10 million or more, right? And then if you stack on your personal assets like your investments and maybe you have some real estate, and don't forget life insurance proceeds, if it's not planned for properly, that becomes part of your estate. So a lot of owners are worth a lot more on paper than they feel like or know about. And we'll talk about there's certain exclusions, as far as dollar figures before it's subject to estate taxes. But go ahead, ask me, throw some questions out at me because we're doing this
Well,
for actually,
yeah.
I'm doing it in my life because we do this every year. We go through it with our family and whatnot. And I've got a couple of kids who are getting married, and I expect them to have prenups, and that's going over like a I
Like a
don't
fart in church.
like a I was going to say a fart in church, but I didn't want you to cut it out. But that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
uh,
I love you, but anyway.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay, so let's, a lot of times people talk about this limit when it comes to estate tax, and they think, "Oh, I'm way under. I don't necessarily need to worry about it." Can you talk a little bit about what that limit is and what people are talking about or what they're referencing, what they say that, and then why that limit may not be the thing that they think that it is?
Well, so the limit so there's an unlimited marriage exclusion. So if your spouse passes, you can be worth $100 million and pass it to your spouse. But right now, there's an amount that if you don't exceed it, you're not subject to federal estate taxes. And that number is right around 15 million. The reason I say right around is because it gets indexed for inflation. But that number came up quite a bit when your buddy Trump put that into to play. It used to be significantly less. It doesn't mean that in the future that it can't come back in, but it's about $15 million and 15 million for a spouse. So it's about $30 million, right?
Hmm.
Um, and there are ways to push small amounts to people that you want without affecting that 30 million um, uh, you know each year as a gift. By the way, the gift and estate tax work in conjunction with each other. If you gift money during your lifetime, that reduces the 30 million, right?
Okay.
So that's why the gift and estate tax work in conjunction with each other. There's also several states that it's $1 million. It's not 15 million. So you'll be subject to that. The reason that this is important is because estate tax, once you are past the limit, the federal estate tax is 40%. Okay. So let's say you're worth $40 million. The first 30 million is free. The second 10 mil or the remaining 10 million, you're going to pay $4 million in taxes. Plus, you're going to pay a whole bunch of state estate taxes or inheritance taxes if the states, all states are different. There's some states that don't have it. There are some states that have it in a big way. So that's,
Right.
that's the thing that you want to do. The other thing that you want to do is there's a lot of people who talk about trusts and things like that. There's this there's this thing called probate where when you die, the courts have to figure out are there any
Mm.
who do you owe money to and things like that. And one of the ways to avoid probate is to put your assets in what they call a revocable trust. Revocable trust means you have total control of it. And basically that avoids this whole probate
Well, that's
thing.
also how Don Juan learns of, this wealthy widow. Just FYI, you can. I'm being serious. I mean, the very thing that you just talked about there is that if it goes through probate, it's public record, right? And
Yeah.
now all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, what do we got here? You know what I mean? And so it just, and not
That's
to say
better than
that,
a dating app. You
yeah.
just go to
Just go look at the court records. Like, oh, it gives a whole new meaning to swiping. But anyway, uh,
right.
so, but I mean, that's another thing about. I agree with you, and I remember this was a very specific thing that we talked about when I set mine up. Is that I don't necessarily want anyone knowing what if it's me before my spouse, right? What actually gets transferred, nor do I want that on public record.
That's
So,
right. So so the revocable trust is a way to avoid that. Okay.
yep.
Um, let's see. Uh,
So you want to
So
talk about let's talk about okay, so now you pass it on to your spouse. I mean, I think probably a bigger issue here if you're listening and we're talking about estate tax. And I mean, obviously at the very beginning here, we're just talking about how it's important that you need to do it. I think the main thing is this is that, you know, when you think about estate planning in general, if you screw it up, you're going to pay I mean, your family's going to pay a boatload of taxes. And listen, I'm all
if
about
you're over, and it depends on what that minimum amount. So like
sure,
I had
but
some states like, so I told you 15 million, but like Oregon is 1 million. Massachusetts is 2 million,
well,
right?
here's the
And
point I'm trying to get to is this, which is at the end of the day, at the end of the day, whatever it is, I don't mind paying taxes. Now, I don't like it, but I understand that okay, this is what I can do. But this is really just planning, right? I mean, a lot of this is avoidable if you just plan. And so for me, it's almost it's almost like a double whammy, right? Because if you can do the planning up front, I'm not saying you can completely not pay any taxes at all. I know some people out there that say that's, but you know, a vast majority could be avoided or handled properly if you just do a little planning up front. And so that to me is one of the main benefits and one of the main reasons to make sure that no matter where you think you're at, you should be thinking about estate planning in general.
well,
So
one of the things, right? So you can gift certain amounts, right? So if I gift, my wife and I gift you $1 million. Now we don't have 30 million to give away. We have 29 before estate tax kicks in.
by
But
the way,
think
if
of,
you're listening, that's on record. I will get the transfer instructions after this podcast.
yes,
Yeah.
send those
Okay.
over.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
However,
Yeah.
what if you are starting a pest control company and maybe you're feeling pretty good about yourself? You did $1 million your first year or first 2 years, whatever. And you say, well, what's this thing worth? I'm going to grow this to be $75 million, right? And we've seen that happen with some of these guys, right?
Hmm.
So, but that first year, it's a million in revenue. You probably didn't make any money, so the thing's probably worth less than $1 million, or maybe $1 million.
Right.
You could take that stock and gift it into a trust, an irrevocable trust, right? That is for the benefit of your heirs, which you can take salaries, and you need to talk to a trust and estate attorney. And the reason I know this is because we go through it all the time with our family. But you can put that $1 million in, and that's $1 million gift. That company can grow to 50 million. It's out of your estate. That's not part of your estate anymore. Only the $1 million gift is, right? And by the way, that's not just your pest control company. Maybe you have a stock portfolio or a real estate portfolio. Same thing. So you can reduce it, um, by pushing it into an irrevocable trust. Before you do that, talk to a trust and estate attorney because you lose certain control over those assets. But
Hmm.
if you're feeling pretty good about, your own net worth and you're maybe doing this for the kids and preservation of your, family dynasty, this is one of the ways to do it.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, just real quick, do you mind just a very high level differences between revocable and irrevocable? Because I think for some of our listeners, they might not
Yeah.
know that.
An irrevocable trust is nothing more. You go to the bank, put your bank accounts in the name of the irrevocable trust. You're using your social security number. So what a trust is a trust is its own person or entity, right? So you're an entity, your wife is an entity, and the trust that your kids are entities, and the trust is an entity. So you could gift the money into, or you can push the money into a trust. If the trust is revocable, you haven't made a gift, so you're not using up anything. But what it does is it avoids this whole probate thing. You have total control of it. You can do whatever you want. Now, when you pass, you can have that pass into an irrevocable trust. An irrevocable trust is a good planning tool. You're going to lose some control. There's beneficiaries. So the entity itself, the beneficiaries could be your kids, right? And then the trustee could be you, maybe your spouse or whatever. Um, but that's essentially what you're doing. But you've lost. You don't have control. You can't just take that. the assets in that irrevocable trust and pull them back and do whatever you want with them. They're not yours anymore. They belong to the irrevocable trust. But that irrevocable trust can, when you design it, you can dictate how assets will be distributed, income from the trust. So if you put, I don't know, let's say you put stocks and bonds in it and it kicks off cash, you can have it distribute to your kids, to your spouse, to whoever you want, right? So that's the way. So irrevocable control, irrevocable trust, you have total control over. I'm sorry, revocable trust, you have total control over. Irrevocable trusts, you don't.
So let's talk about, let's say that you're doing well and you end up, you go over the amount. You're 16 million and okay, so you're
And
gonna
you're
you
single.
and you're single
Okay.
and you can't. So in that case, you're over the, let's just say you're in a state where you get all the way up to 15 million and
Say you're in
and
Florida, there's no estate
say,
tax.
yeah, say you're in Florida. Now what? You go over it like it's like, oh, is it like, oh my gosh, well now I got to pay taxes on the full 16 million? Is it like, what can you just kind of
Well, the
walk?
first thing you want to do is spend it down to it. I mean, it depends, Are you willing to pay some taxes? If you are, then, you go on life as usual. But
Mm-hmm.
let's say that 16 million goes to 25 million, right? Now you have $10 million that's subject to estate tax. By the way, the first 1 million after the 15 million is it's tiered, but once it gets to a million over, it's 40% straight, right? So you're giving away a lot of money. Plus,
Mm-hmm.
in Florida, no estate tax, but other states you have it, right? Um, so what is the strategy? Well, maybe you spend it down, maybe you gift it out, right? There's lots of ways to do this through charities, right? So you can gift it
Mm-hmm.
to charities. Those are things that you can do. But the idea is to to keep the federal taxes to a minimum. And again, we're talking about a subject where probably most of our listeners aren't going to be in that 15 or 30 million if they're married. But this whole asset protection thing is extremely important because remember, I said that these irrevocable trusts are entities. So
Right.
let's say that let's say that you put the stock of Triangle in an irrevocable trust. Let's say that one of your technicians gets in an accident that's just crazy, like just blows away your insurance limits, and you lose a $20 million lawsuit, right? Well, they can't touch the assets that are in the irrevocable trust. That's so that's an asset protection thing. Creditors can't touch it. And also, if you give it to your kids, and they get divorced or whatever, their spouses can't touch it. Irrevocable trust, you can also control the way your kids get it. Well, you're not allowed to touch it or even think about it until you're 30 years old. Uh,
Right.
this money is earmarked for the grandkids, not for you can dictate how all of that works. So
Right.
it's asset protection as well as tax planning. And the tax planning may not come into, be all that big of a deal because you're not in that category. But the asset protection, that's from dollar one.
And if, I mean, listen, the reality is if you're a control freak, I mean, this is your tool, right? I mean,
Right.
yeah. I mean, I'm just saying. And by the way, I am a fan of being a control freak because listen, I had a very real decision to make when I was younger. And even now, my kids were young, and the last thing I would ever do is give them the kind of money that when they're 18, right? Or even
Yeah.
20. My personal opinion here. Um, I don't know that my life would be the same as it is now had I been gifted, right, some cash in my early, or I should say, late teens, early 20s. And so I wanted to be very thoughtful about how that transition took place, and I wanted some stopgaps put in because ultimately, you know, experience brings wisdom. Wisdom brings, good decisions. And listen, this is one of those things where you really want to make good decisions. You don't want to put someone in a position where they've got this amazing tool and don't realize it, and then by the time they figure it out, it's gone.
And by the way, you can control that exactly the way that you want. So an
Mm-hmm.
18-year-old with all that money with the Shelton fortune, probably not but maybe you want to at 30, you think that they're pretty,
Right.
responsible. So you give them half. So the trust
Mm-hmm.
distributes half. Maybe at 40, the other half, and then the trust goes away, right? So you can
Right.
do that and you can dictate exactly what you want. You know.
So
Um,
so let's put this all together, right? So you got federal tax, you got federal and state is I'm sorry, federal and state estate and gift tax. Like, how does this all come together? So you have an event, something happens. Now, let's say I don't know how
So
much you get
before
for the
you
estate.
go on, estate and gift tax work differently than income tax, right? So if you get income, you pay taxes. The
Mm-hmm.
estate and gift tax, the donor, the person paying it, pays the taxes, right? So your kids aren't going to pay the estate taxes. The
Mm-hmm.
estate is going to pay it. Or if you give it away while you're alive, you're going to pay it, right?
Right.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
different. However, some states have what they call inheritance taxes in lieu of estate taxes. And that would be, this gets very, very complicated, but that would be where the donee or the person getting the money,
Mm-hmm.
they pay the taxes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So continue on with your question.
Well, I mean, I guess the question is like, are these the same system? Are they different systems? And if so, how does that work? I guess is the question. You know.
So the federal estate, gift and estate taxes, there's once you give away, well, right now you can give away up to $19,000 to any person or charity or well, not charity, but person. You can give away as much as you want to charity, but you can give it to a person. So let's say that um, your daughter gets married. So, and you want to reduce your assets. You can give her $19,000, and this is indexed for inflation. You can give her husband $19,000. Your wife can give her 19,000, and your wife can give her husband 19,000. So you're what do you $76,000 that you've
Hmm.
just done, and you don't affect anything. And if you give more than that 19,000 to any one person, then you have to file a gift tax return. And that gift track, they track that credit throughout your life. So right now it's $15 million. And so it will get reduced by whatever you give away in life, that exceeds those $19,000, um, you know, pockets.
Got it. Got it. Um, and so I guess the question is so I'm sitting here, let's say I don't know, I got a smaller company, we're less than say 5 million. Um, how do you,
Revenue or
yeah, revenue
value?
wise. Yeah,
Okay.
revenue wise. And
Yep.
and so what's this, how do you get started? Like what should you do?
So let's say you're doing $3 million. Let's say that your company's worth $9 million, 3x, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not subject to this. Let's say that you have $1 million investments, you get a house that's worth $1 million, you're still under the $15 million. You're good. But you have three kids, and one of your kids shows a tremendous interest in the business. And let's say that they're 21 or 22. One of them goes away and studies a different, is not interested in the business at all, right? And one of them is too young, you can't tell, right? And you want to figure out, well, what do I need to do in order to make this fair? Let's say you want to retire today,
Mm-hmm.
right? You've got to try to, and you want to be fair to all your kids, but you love the fact that one of your kids wants to take on the business, right? So you've got to figure out all the values and set up this schema such that the right amount goes to each child. Now, obviously, we know in pest control, you can grow a pest control company pretty quickly and make really good money. So it may
Mm-hmm.
be that the person, the child who is involved with the business overall will make much more money, but that's because his or her sweat equity once they get the
Hmm.
company, as opposed
Hmm.
to the other child who you're just going to,
Pay out basically.
pay out, right?
Yeah.
So you want to do that. Um, Couple other things that you want to think about when you're doing this. Um, let's see. Um, there are some items that you should think about talking to your estate attorney. Um, you know, and that is like um, who handles your affairs. Let's say that you go into a coma or something. Okay. Um, you know, so you want to talk about they call it living trusts and healthcare proxies and things like that, right? Who's in charge of that? And
Hmm.
usually it's a spouse, maybe it's a child, depends on how long you live and whatnot. Okay. But those are items that you want to talk to your estate attorney about. Okay. And it's a lot of this stuff is if you're under the $30 million is very boilerplate templated. So if you think you're going to go to an attorney and they're going to charge you all sorts of money, it might cost you a few grand, maybe $5,000 tops, but it's well worth it to get all of this done. And you should be looking at it every year, 2 years or so to make sure that it's all still exactly the way you want it to play out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Um, So we're getting close to the end, and I want to we're probably going to have to do this in two sessions because I'm looking at we haven't even started scratching the surface as far as you talked about business succession. There's still a lot more a little bit deeper in here, but I guess probably what
If you
I
have
want to
partners who get like,
right.
okay, so you and I are partners in PMP, and something happens to me, and Miss Carol is now your partner. She's your guest host or your new host on PMP
She would
Industries.
probably be a big upgrade, but keep
Much
going.
better, much
Yeah,
better. But like, so what happens there? Does, maybe you don't want her in there. So
right.
we have cross insurance so that you can buy her out and things like
Right.
that. So
And
that's the
by the
kind
way, I would say that if you're listening to this, this is my golden rule for any partnership is that you should have a buy sell and you should have
absolutely.
insurance because listen, I by the way, and I know Carol and I love her and I think she's awesome. And I don't say this in the terms of Dan, but I'm in business with Dan and I'm in business with my partner. I'm not in business with their spouses or anyone else who might get the business and be crazy because it's going to be a lot harder to get rid of it after that. If you've got someone who you can't make all the decisions and then something goes down, that's a hard spot to be in. So it's something
Yep.
for you to think about. So,
Yeah.
all
So
right,
the
last thing.
people you want to be involved in this is an estate attorney, a CPA, and an insurance person, and also an investment advisor.
Yes,
So those are the
100%.
people you want involved.
Now, last question, and then we're going to close out here, which is how often, let's say you say, okay, I'm going to do this. How often should you revisit your plan and revisit your setup for estate planning?
In my family, we do it every year. A lot of attorneys will say do it every 2 to 3 years, but we
Hmm.
do it every year because our business is growing. We've got other businesses that we got real estate, we've got all kinds of stuff. So yeah, so we do look at it every year.
Got it. Got it. All righty. So I think the main takeaway from this is that number one, if you are wondering if you should do this, the most likely answer is yes. And then the other part is that I would not. This is not do it yourself because the reality of it is that when you're talking about 40% tax, that's nothing to. I mean that is pretty significant. So I would say for you is get to talk to a CPA, talk to an estate attorney. The main thing is you want to ask the right questions. You want to make sure that you're at least you have a decent plan because again, I think for me one of the most I think probably one of the most reckless things I could do is not think this through beforehand and then have some life event. And listen, life's life, things happen, right? Because
Mhm.
and then leaving them with them having to figure all this out. And so,
And the big point is it's not just the 40%, it's the asset protection. It's the kids and their spouses and all this other, that whole family chart
yeah,
and whatnot.
yeah.
So
And with that, all the resources and topics that we talked about today are going to be available on the podcast website. Just take a look at pmpindustryinsider.com. Take a look under show notes. And of course, I'm sure if you have any kind of estate questions, you should probably reach out to Dan. But you should also reach out.
Is to get you to think about it, to ask your attorney, to ask your
Right.
CPA. This is not to replace them, right?
Correct.
It's a very
100%.
complicated area. So,
Right. And you want people who know you and know your situation and can give you good guidance. And so,
yep.
all righty. And like I said, if you got questions, reach out to Dan or reach out to someone that you trust that can give you the answers that you need. And again, we appreciate any ratings and reviews that you have, so long as they're positive. If they're not and they're negative and you hate our show or you hate Dan, we ask that you contact him. He really likes that. And with that, we'll see you all next time. Take care now.
See ya. Bye.
Bye bye now.